My older children have all mostly gone out into the service of the world elsewhere, Lord elsewhere, and so it's been good to be back here again. I must confess I'm a little nervous. This is a lot fuller than it was when I was here before, but I thought I'd just do a quick introduction as Chester did on who I am and a little bit about me so that you understand, because as he said, if we don't have a connection, if you don't understand where I'm coming from, it's just facts. But if we can share hearts, and that's my burden here, is to be open and transparent with you. If we can share those hearts, our hearts with each other, then we can grow from each other, and we can learn and grow together. So, I am Japheth Stauffer from Bemidji, Minnesota. I am the father of 11, husband of 1. When I was practicing that earlier this morning, I said that backwards, and I said that's going to go real bad if we don't get that right. So this is my family. That they cannot all be here with me, but just I want to give you a little bit of a insight. Is where do you want your family to be 10 years from now? If you'd asked me 10 years ago, I would have had a little bit of a nebulous feeling where I wanted to go. But I had some underlying foundational places where I wanted to be. So I'm just going to show you a little bit where we're at. Japheth Jr. is my oldest. He is serving as a chief at Ohio Wilderness Boys Camp, and he's in his second year there, and he is now lead chief. And God has done some amazing things. There's stories I could tell, but I can't go into that today. My second son, Jeremiah, he spent a year and a half in Mountain View Nursing Home. It's where he met his wife, Anna Miller, from Cochranton, Pennsylvania. This was taken at their wedding here back in March. My oldest daughter, Lorraine, she's a little firecracker. I don't have time for all the stories, but she was thinking about going into mission work, but she wanted to be a mama, and she struggled with school. And so at halfway through geometry, just tears in her eyes, she couldn't hardly make it. And then I said, well, what do you feel God wants you to be? She says, I want to be a mama. I want to be able to raise a godly family. And so we started having her instead take a different type of school, learning how to cook for a large family. She did all the menu planning and things like that. And Josh Dean is my fellow minister's oldest son. He saw the hound circling, and so he put his oar in the water before she even turned 18. And I said, yes, but you got to wait. And so he is serving in the Christian Ministry Search and Rescue Team in Minnesota with Jaden and myself. And he is one of very passionately involved in that and serving in that way. Then is Wayne. He is currently serving at Faith Mission Home in Virginia, working with mentally challenged children. Jaden is working for me at the store, waiting patiently for when he can be old enough to go to the boys' camp as a chief. You have to be 21 to go there, and he's 18, so he's got some time to go yet. Oh, I didn't know if someone was calling for me. Amy Lynn is here. She's the oldest one that's here. She is working for me at my store. She is going to be quitting her job here in about 2 weeks, and she is going to go serve a family in our community. In fact, Dawson and Hope's oldest daughter, they had triplets last fall, and so they have 7 children, 8 and under. Is that correct? She just turned 9. She just turned 9 and under. And so she's going to be going there to serve them and helping to carry them through their years. The side note is Carissa did that for us when we had 5 children, 5 and under. And we wondered some days if you're ever going to be able to make it. And Carissa just said, hey, can I come over and spend half a day with you? And that became my wife's lifeline, to go do grocery shopping or to just go in her room and be alone and not have to be interrupted at all with that. That was her lifeline, and so now we get to return that. And then Violet is here as well. Violet, Lily, Rose, Daisy, Veronica, and our grandson Wesley. I say all that to say this. We raise our children with the goal of serving, and as I'm going to be talking about technology this week, it is easy for us to get a microscopic view on what's right and wrong here. But I want you to step back and think back as where do you want to go as a family? And what's going to hinder you from getting there, and what's going to enable you to reach that more effectively? That is a deep burden and a passion in my heart. because my family is not done growing up, and I have not made all the right choices, okay? I stand before you as a man with feet of clay. And that is where my burden is, though, is that let's keep our eyes on the bigger picture, because there's going to be things I'm going to asking you, not to verbally, but to mentally in your mind say, where are you going? Where's this taking you? And how are you using this? And if you don't have the end goal of where you want to be, it's very easy to get distracted by the little ones. When I was at Bible school back 30 years ago, there was I noticed that a lot of us in our youth, in our class, we're very close to each other in our practice, in our beliefs, and our values. But it seemed that there was some people that they were taking just a little bit of a left turn at center, just a little bit of left, and I was probably going maybe just a little bit to the right. What's interesting is that those became very great over time. And I find it's that way with technology. We can choose to do with a little bit less than we want, and it's going to get us at a better place sometimes than to choose just a little bit more than what we think is healthy. I'll get into more of that later. So who am I? I also have a sewing machine shop. It is my job to do what every 18-year-old young man loves to do, keep ladies in stitches. No. I fix and sell sewing machines. I've been doing it now for about 28 years, and it is, in fact, I'm double booked. Today I was supposed to be flying to Newark, New Jersey, because Brother is releasing their new top-of-the-line sewing machine. It's going to retail for about $25,000. It has projectors like this. It has iPads into it. You can actually load a picture into it, and it will paint with thread right on the screen of what it is. So technology is fairly big. At my store
today, can we order one?
You can. We're taking $500 deposits, and we get your name in line. There's 4 in front of you, though, so so you might have to wait till November. Yes. And I'm just a small store. I have some other people that have 20 people in line waiting for these machines. It's just kind of crazy. At my store, we have, so just so you know a little bit where I'm coming from in technology, we have 12 computers, and we do a lot of our own videotaping of tutorials. I find out as I'm getting more and more customers, I don't have enough time in the day to teach all of them. And so by recording the videos and editing them and getting them on YouTube is a way that we're able to do it. And so that's where I come from. And some of you might be saying, it's not going to be as bad. He uses technology. I'd also like to say there's other thing about that. So while I do use a lot of technology, I also carry the scars of it. There was a time in my past when I was addicted to gaming. I was working 50 hours a week for a mission, and I was still spending 40 hours a week gaming. It had become an idol. While gaming has never, God help me break that idol, gaming has never been that issue, but I still struggle with it today, technology. And in fact, it's almost like food. As our world has gotten into this, you almost have to have some levels of technology, just like you have to eat food. But what kind of food? And if you don't learn to control the food, that which you need can kill you. And it's the passion of my heart is that how can I share what I have learned? What is probably, this might be old hat to some of you, but how can I share in a way so that maybe someone else out there can start out life or find victory in life in ways that they hadn't before? That's the burden. I'm also a pastor and a teacher. I did not realize I was a teacher until 3 years ago when I stood in front of a class of Bible school students for the first time. And I asked them to share their heart with me. And they did. And as we connected in hearts, I realized that there's a passion there that I didn't know was there before. That of connecting over things that really matter. And of joining together in the journey. And not just saying, there's the way, go there, but walking there with them. And my goal in teaching is to be open and transparent. in these things. I'm passionate about the teaching of technology because I think technology can be used in some ways that are really, really good. I think that we have the opportunity to do some things today that our grandparents never even saw possible. But with that technology, with that ability, comes a peril as well. And are we open to that? Are we cognizant of that? Because I believe that the technology is changing us in ways we may not be thinking about, in ways that we may not be recognizing. And so my goal for this week is to look at how we're being influenced by the technology around us, what the Bible says about it, and how we can form a game plan for charting a safe or a safer course through this topic. So what is technology, if we're going to be teaching? Well, the definition would be is that it's the use of science and industry and engineering, etc., to invent useful things or to solve problems. You know, when God created you, He gave you a brain that works in an amazing way. And we are designed and wired by God, I think it's with part of His DNA, to try and figure out how to make things better. Is that wrong? Is it wrong to try and do that? Is it wrong to try and invent a new piece of equipment that can save us time? You know, I remember going up to Canada, and I have the same problem that Chester does. I love telling stories, and so sometimes I got to look at that clock. We went up to Canada and Crystal Lake, and they had all of these Reader's Digest from back in the, I don't know when it started, 40s, 50s, and something like that. And I would read these things, and it was hilarious to me to look at the illustrations trying to sell washing machines to ladies back in the 40s, and vacuum cleaners, and the way they described it, that you're floating on air running this vacuum cleaner, you know, and you don't have to beat the carpets anymore. Think of all the time you save with a washing machine. I mean, think about it, ladies. Think about how much time we save with a microwave. What are we doing with that time? You know, but technology has changed an awful lot in that. It can be applying this science, but it's also a machine or a piece of equipment that is created by technology for this. So it's not wrong that we would try and make a machine that's going to make life easier, but understand that if you are using your God-given brain to create something to help in the building of God's kingdom, what is Satan going to try and do with that? He's going to try and take that and warp it and twist it to destroy instead of build, correct? Yeah. And take a look at anything that God has called good, and Satan has done his best to make it bad. And that's some of what has happened with that. The other thing about technology is it's always changing. You know, it never stays put. By the you know, this is my first car. It was a technological marvel. It had a 2.0 engine in it. It would go from 0 to 60 in 2.5 miles. You know, and it was you'd step on it and it'd go why. You know, it was a little gutless thing, but it's what I drove for quite a while. Now I have a little van that you see out there. It's the newest vehicle I've ever bought. And this little thing has about the same size motor, but technology has changed. This little thing is whippy. I get about 6 miles a gallon better than I did with a smaller car. And I'm able to haul about 1,000 pounds in it. You know, that's what we use for delivering our sewing machines and stuff that's out there. This was something that looked similar to my first computer. It's not the actual computer, but it actually had, my first computer had a CD-ROM in it, which was pretty cool. My dad's first computer had 5 1/4 floppies. It didn't have one of those fancy 3.5-inch ones. It was the big ones, and you'd be flying along a flight simulator, and it said, "Please stop, change the disk." See, in the middle of the air, you stop and you change the disk, and you do that. You had a monitor that they told you don't get too close to it. Do you know why? It's a CRT monitor. It had a radon tube in it that you would get too much radiation if your face came within a foot of the screen. And so your eyes, they were worried about what it would do to your eyes. You didn't know that, did you? You know, but that monitor would take up, you know, almost 20 inches of space on your desk. And now, these young people, I was in Costco here a few weeks ago. They had a 72-inch TV, and I went and measured it. It was a 1/2 inch thick. You know, it changes. And that 72-inch TV, well, actually, no, it was a little bit more than this monitor, what it cost me. You know, this whole system, I remember costing me like $550, and I thought I had a really good deal. You know, and now this is my, no, it's not my desk. My wife would laugh at my desk. My staff call it the Bermuda rectangle. It's where papers go to get lost. But this is, technology has changed. I now have 2 monitors. My little computer, or my computer that's there, I actually just recently updated that. Remember COVID? Recording all those videos and having to upload sermons to, you know, it would take me 2.5 hours to encode a message, a 45-minute message for YouTube so we could watch it the next day. So I'd go there, preach the message at the church Sunday morning, record it to a camera, and then go back, and it would take me almost 2 hours to encode that and upload it to YouTube. I recently just built a new computer for the store, and what took me 2.5 hours now takes me 2.5 minutes to do it. It's liquid-cooled processors. I mean, it's crazy some of the things that are able to be done out there. It's always changing. So where do you draw the line? Okay? But no matter how far you go back, technology has always had its skeptics. You know, some welcome it. They think, hey, this is great. This is going to solve all our problems. We're going to be able to do this and that. Others have dragged their feet. And, is that really that important? Because they see both good and bad in it. You know, going back there, you know, Socrates, he actually disliked writing. He said it makes our memory lazy. Now, I don't know about writing, but I know that the ease of information to us makes it less valuable. And that's the way it is. If I don't write something down with my hand, I can swipe it into my phone really quickly. But I'm less likely to remember it on my phone than if I take time to write it down. If I were to take time and memorize it, which do you think would last longer, writing or memorizing? So does writing make our memory lazy? Probably. So should we all give up writing? No, that's it. By the way, you are allowed to respond. You are allowed to, I appreciate that. This is going to be some interactive. We're going to be getting to this here in a little bit. But Socrates, he said, I don't want to do it. And he would forbid any of he would not write any of his own stuff, and he kind of questioned whether people should be writing his down as well either. Conrad Gessner was a scientist, and he was alarmed at the proliferation of information that was coming into his world. He saw the Gutenberg press and the ease with which books were being brought out, and he says, we're in trouble because now everyone's going to be able to put out whatever they want to, and who's going to determine what is right and wrong? And it's just like we can put out good. I mean, the Gutenberg press, we think about that as the scriptures being freely distributed for us, but all of a sudden, anyone else could print something. And he says, I don't think this information, he said, it's going to corrupt our society. Was he right? Just go through the grocery store and look how easy things are printed today. And you look at all the stuff that's there. Does that benefit our society? You know, and so I look at this and I go back and I say, okay, let's look back at the perspective. Writing. These are the only record we have of what people thought and taught in the past. Your Bible is able to be read to you because of the ability to write. You know, the Native American people did not write much of their history down. And by and large, a lot of it is lost. How was it passed down? It was passed down by the storytelling. And if you look at scriptures, none of our scriptures were written down that we have any record of before Moses. How did it pass down? Storytelling. But aren't you thankful that we have the scriptures today, that they are there? What do you have from your family's records 40 years ago, 40 years or before? What do you have that's not written? shortly after we got married, there was several distinctive handprints that God had done in our family. And my wife and I, we wanted to record them for our children. And so because I was a geek, I had a computer, and I went and I used the software and I recorded. I don't like writing. Chester knows this. To my shame. That's a different story. But I struggle with writing. I struggle communicating on page the passion I feel in my heart. And so I'm going to record these lessons, these stories for my children. And so I did. And I recorded them in one of the latest software versions that we had, in a format that is no longer able to be read. In fact, I no longer have record of any of those stories I recorded. They're gone. Because the newer computers don't read those formats. If I had written it down, I'd still have it. Printing. Printing has produced a boatload of filth. And as we talked about, but yet God's Word has never been more widely available to us than today. Mentally in your head, how many Bibles do you have in your house at home? I think I'm around 25 at our house. And you know how many people in the world still today don't have one? One church might share one. And there's effort on their way to go out there, but printing has produced it. Do you recognize the tremendous treasure we have because the technology came out to give you God's Word reproduced in an accurate way so that you can know that what was written was what was intended? That's a treasure. And I'm thankful for the technology that has brought that here for us. But with all this technology, there's also some negatives that has happened. And there's a temptation for us, should we just become a Luddite? How many know what a Luddite is? I don't know how old you are, but it's only old people I see raising their hands. Okay, what's it? Luddites. Thank you, Brother Bear, for correcting me on that. Luddite. Ed Ludd was a knitter. That sounds like even a better occupation than fixing sewing machines, if you want to, But he would knit, and his job was to knit articles of clothing for people. And an inventor in his town came up with a machine that would knit, and one machine could knit faster than 10 men. And what do you think Ed felt about that in relation to his income? He says, this is going to destroy our way of life. We daresn't let this happen. And more business people who saw the financial benefits of adopting this technology, they said, hey, and they started buying these machines and having the blacksmith. Well, the blacksmith also made hammers. And so Ed Ludd led a crowd one night, and they took the hammers that the blacksmith made and they smashed the machines the blacksmith had made because they wanted to prevent this technology from ruining their way of life. And I will confess that there is an element that comes inside of me, is that what we do with some of the technology today? Do we just try and smash it? Do we try and squash it? I think there's places where we need to draw lines, and we're going to talk about that. But I don't think, or let me ask you this question. Was he effective in stopping the change? No. In fact, you look at the technology today, they can knit a sock that you're wearing on your foot in about 10 seconds, 10 to 12 seconds now. It's that fast that they can do that. Technology has changed. Why? Because we like to buy socks at 12 pair for $8 at Walmart, and that's where we're grateful for this. But their fear may have been valid because technology does change us. It changed their society, and it is changing ours today. And we have to look at how are we going to relate to this? How are we going to adapt to it? Do we just try and smash it and ignore it? Do we openly embrace it and say, hey, let's just take whatever good we can have? Or is there another path that we should be looking at? I'd like to ask this question. Are all technologies created equal? Okay? So, like I said, technologies are always changing, right? This was cutting edge technology at one time. Pun intended. But I'd like to ask you, with every technology comes pros and cons, correct?
Right.
So let me ask you a question. What are some of the things we gained with this technology? Muscles?
Working together.
Working together. Why do you say that, Daniel?
There's two people to pull back and forth.
Yeah, did you ever try pushing one of these saws? That is an exercise in frustration. You two have to be working in synchronized harmony to be able to pull it. What else do we get from this?
Faster cutting.
Faster cutting?
Then
An axe?
an axe.
Anything else?
Precision axe.
More precise? Yes, precision.
Teamwork.
Teamwork? Similar to that, yeah. What about the wood you save? If you're cutting an axe, you have to chop a big hole, and you now are able to salvage more of this wood, correct? What did we lose from the axe when we gained this technology? Independence, okay. That's one I hadn't thought of. I don't know how much we lost with that. It was mostly a benefit, okay? What about this technology? What did we gain with this technology?
Speed.
Speed, okay. Noise, yes.
Hearing loss.
Okay, that's something we lost, was our hearing, yes, correct.
One person.
Okay. We gained production, but what do we lose?
Hearing loss.
Hearing loss. Teamwork. We lost teamwork. Right. You could go out and do it on your own, correct? What else did we lose?
Jobs.
Lost jobs.
We're down to one person cutting quicker.
Okay. All right. One person's able to do the same amount of cutting that a lot of other men could do with a crosscut, right?
Yeah, but now we're producing gas and oil and all that. Where we were there, we weren't doing any of that.
Consuming.
You're consuming, yeah. Okay.
We're creating more junk.
He doesn't want me to take away his chainsaw. That's what is happening right there. Okay. What else do we lose? How about safety? I was recently at a rapid response conference for Christian Aid Ministries, and they taught a course on chainsaw safety. And you know this, but you know how fast a saw can kick up if you catch the bar at the wrong place? They showed us an X-ray of a guy that had the bar of a chainsaw halfway through his neck, sticking out down into his collarbone, and he was cutting off to the side a bit, and that quick. People were smart enough, they left it there until they get to the hospital so they could try and keep him from bleeding out. Extremely fast ability, or the safety of that. Are there some safety technologies, or safety protocols we should adopt for using these technologies? Okay.
Yeah, there's an anti-kickback thing there. If your hand slips, that'll stop the chain.
Yep. Correct? So we have that technology there. All right. Earplugs.
Safety glasses, helmet, chaps.
Okay. So we recognize that with this, you're going to have to draw some more lines. Correct? Okay, dads. We don't have any really young men here. What age do you let someone use this saw?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. If they're old enough, they're not going to want it. All right. What age do you let someone use a chainsaw? 18. 18?
not an age, it's if they're strong enough and capable, if they've learned
Okay.
how good to do it. I don't know, I've had 4 boys, they all learned how to do it. I don't know how old they
I
were.
probably started when I was 14.
14, okay. What about a 10-year-old? That's 75 pounds. No.
Not smart.
No, that's not smart. What about a Milwaukee chainsaw, one of the new ones that don't weigh as much? Would you let them use that? You see, technology, as it's constantly changing, is asking us, where are you drawing these lines? What's safety? Okay, again, are all technologies equal? You know what's funny? I have watched little people that have never seen a phone like this that's plugged into the wall, and yet somehow they know what to do with that. How is that? It's amazing to me. You know, the phone was a huge change in the home, correct? There's some people rejected this advance in technology. Why? They still have it to this day. They still rejected it. Why have they rejected it?
Possibility of gossip.
Possibility of gossip. We saw it on the chat line up there, the gossip line. Yeah.
It's an easy line to draw.
It's an easy line to draw. Okay.
In or out.
It's either in or out. You know what? I forget who it was that said years ago, you know, we Mennonites are way better at abstinence than we are at moderation. Think about that. It's sometimes easier to draw a line. You know, if you did not have a telephone back when these things first came out, and you needed to ask a question from someone else, what did you have to do?
Go face to face.
You have to go face to face. You have to get in your car, or most likely get on your horse and ride around to the neighboring farm and ask them the question and then come back. You probably stopped and had a cup of coffee and visited with them, or if you're a guy, you went out into the barn and you talked about the new discharges coming out of your cow that doesn't look very good or something like that. But that's what you would have done. When the phone came in, you could just pick it up, and question done, you're ready to go. Sounds good, right? Did the phone change the home setting? I see some nodding heads. How did it change the home setting?
Some kids ran when it rang, and some of the kids ran to it when it rang.
Okay.
Interrupts your whatever you're doing.
All of a sudden, family time is family time with an asterisk behind it until the phone rings. Okay? It changed that. Okay? Distractions, you know, ladies who were at home all day, you know, teaching their children, raising their children, cooking, canning, you know, all of a sudden it created that outlet. And ladies, I'm not just poking at you. We guys do the same thing too sometimes. We can sit on the phone and we talk longer than whatever it was. Nosiness. When the first lines came out, it was a party line. I remember up in Canada when we were up at Sterling Lake, our phone was 3 long rings, and that was 6 long rings was emergency, but 3 long rings, and if you go over and you carefully pick it up, you could listen to what other people were saying. You know, don't ask me how I knew that, but it was one of those things that my parents, if they ever caught us doing that, that was time for a bottom warming, and so it didn't happen often. What about this technology? It's always changing. You know, we are able to do things on your cell phone that your parents only dreamed of when you were born. It has changed incredibly. One of my friends, Adam Latin, I'll talk a little more about him. He has a ministry of reaching out to missionaries. And a lot of times when he's awake in the middle of the night, he can't sleep. He's able to FaceTime them over in Africa or Bangladesh. And he visits them and talks to them because not many people were up at 2 o'clock in the morning here. And so he can message them and communicate with them in ways that were impossible before. I remember when banking first came out that you could actually dial a number into your bank and it would pick up. You'd have to punch in your account number, you'd have to punch in your PIN number, and it would tell you your balance and your most recent transactions. I mean, that was cutting edge technology. Now, We can transfer money, we can pay our bills, we can invest stocks, we can buy or sell cryptocurrencies, you can do all sorts of stuff with your phone. What have we lost with this?
Face-to-face communication.
Face-to-face communication. Why is that so important?
It conveys, I mean, face-to-face conveys a lot more than just the words that are being, facial expression, all that. You can't see that over the phone.
Okay. I've heard different numbers in here, anywhere from 20 to 40, but they say when you're talking to someone, the actual words you use only convey between 20 and 40% of your message. The rest of it is coming from your tone, your body posture, your facial expressions, and that's all missed. And that in young people, I'm with you. I'm sometimes I don't want to take the time to talk to someone, I send them a text. But this is why we lose something when we don't talk to people face to face. We start losing relationship. We're going to talk about that a little more later in this week. But with this has come something more than just a telephone. It's brought the world into our pocket. And so my question to you is this: which one is more dangerous? Which one's more dangerous?
The phone.
The phone. Why?
It's easier to respect a chainsaw.
Spiritual danger.
Okay. Let's go with that a little bit. Benji? Right, okay. So it's a little bit easier to respect a chainsaw. Why do you think that is?
The wounds are more obvious.
The wounds are more obvious. Exactly. I find it interesting that it's easier for us to draw lines around physical life than spiritual life. We are much quicker to protect spiritual life because, yeah, the wounds are obvious. We see that. But let me ask you, which one destroys more souls between these two up here? And that's my burden here, is that are we looking at that? Are we recognizing the dangers of what's happening in there? My daddy didn't let me run the chainsaw till I was about 16 years old. I thought that was about 4 years too late. You know, I thought I was ready for that a whole lot quicker than that. But I have a scar on my leg from a chainsaw. And I have taken guys to the ER that laid open their entire kneecap from a chainsaw, getting pinched in a downed tree. It happens so quick. And so my children, they have to go through a whole hour-long curriculum on the internet on chainsaw safety, and then I talk with them about that. And then they start with a little saw that doesn't have very much oomph to it, kind of like my car. I let them start out with that first. And then when I see that they've learned how to respect it, we move up from there. Are we doing the same thing with our technologies? So where are we today? I teach this, I'm trying to condense 15 hours of class at Bible school down to 5 hours here this week, okay? So I'm running up against the same thing that Chester does. I loved interaction and dialogue, and so I don't want to cut that off. And so a lot of times I can ask young people, where are you at home? What's the situation at home? But we have parents and children here, and that could be a little bit of an awkward situation, okay? Fair enough? But I would like to ask you to think about this question at home. What technologies are you using in your home? Do you have a cell phone policy that your children know and understand where the lines are drawn? Not something ambivalent that kind of, well, we got to wait for this or that. Do your parents know, or do your children know where the line is and why we've drawn it there? Think about that, and I'm hoping that till we get to the end of the week here, that I can help you have more tools to maybe look at drawing those lines. Here's a question: how is the use of internet in your home different than the way the world uses their TV? take some time, maybe you have some time this afternoon, and flesh that out. Is it different? How is it different? I was recently at a church that has a standard against television. And yet Sunday afternoon, the young men were, after lunch was over, they were quick, ready to go back home because their favorite Major League Baseball team had a game that afternoon that they wanted to watch. They didn't have TV, but they had a YouTube streaming channel that they could stream it because they had a subscription. They could get it for free, ad-free, so they didn't have to watch all the commercials. Is that okay? How is it different than the way the world... Let me ask you a question. Young people, you might have to ask your parents for some input on this, but parents, look back at the people who accepted, the churches that accepted the television into their church 25 years ago, or 30 or 40 years ago. Where are those churches at today? I don't know of one church that is still on solid spiritual footing that accepted the TV back then. Where will we be if the Lord tarries in 10, 15, 20 years? Where will our children be in that? Let me ask you this. So I'd like a little bit of feedback here now, so we're getting into this. What technologies are you using in your churches? Let me hear from you.
Speakers.
Speakers, we have an amplification system. Okay.
Projectors.
We have a projector so that you can see along. What?
Live streams.
Live streams. Okay.
Coffee maker.
A coffee maker. Ooh. Air conditioning. I've been in here where it's been some pretty sweltering days in here when we were here, and so when I saw the AC units over there, I was like, ooh, that's a nice technology improvement.
Google Forms, side things.
Google Forms, like where you can chat and dialogue as a group over?
Just check boxes. Like,
Check boxes?
yes.
Okay.
Decide quickly.
Decide quickly. WhatsApp for... Now, how many under the age of 30 remember calling chains?
You remember what?
Under the age of 30, remember calling chains? You remember it, Monica? Yes. Okay, very good. I didn't realize it was that recent. Yeah, the prayer chain. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so you had someone at the start at the top, and then they called 4 people. Each called 4 people, and they called 4 people. Have you ever heard what happens with how the message gets changed till the very end? Whisper down the lane? It's amazing, some of those things that happen. And no one's intending to do it, okay? I'm not putting that. It just happens. WhatsApp has eliminated that. So let me take the live stream for a minute, because a lot of us started doing that back during COVID. And what are the benefits of a live stream?
Well, yesterday when a bunch of us were here getting set up, we watched our church's live stream.
Aged people that can't get out and look at the church.
Exactly. Your mother-in-law and husband, Ron and Fannie Mae, for many, many years they couldn't make it. And to be able to have that live stream, it was huge. Okay? Are there any downsides to a live stream?
Yes.
Okay. What are some of them?
It's too easy.
It's too easy. Why do you say that, Chester?
It's because the fact that I have to get up, get dressed, and put forth energy to go to a place and interact with people is a whole lot more work than just simply staying in my pajamas and flicking on a live stream and just listening.
Okay.
Statistics show too that the amount of people who have quit going to church after COVID is incredible.
I think there's benefit in people doing their own worship service rather than just taking it easy. Like if you find yourself in a small group, God is there too.
Okay. So we're all old enough to remember COVID yet, and I think that was a big lesson for us. years ago, I'm going to camp here just for a little bit. Shortly after we got married, my wife had ovarian cancer before we met, and we were expecting our first child after we were married, and she had thyroid cancer. We didn't know it at the time. But she was extremely exhausted and fatigued. And I came home from work one day. We've been married about 4 or 5 months, and it was Wednesday evening. How many of you have what's your Wednesday evening attendance like at home? Are there as many people there as on Sunday morning? Are there half as many people there as Sunday morning? Okay? I'm just asking a question, okay? And I went there, I came home, and I looked at my wife. I was tired. I had grumpy customers that day. It was cold. It was, 10 below or something like that. And I just said, I think we're just going to stay home tonight. And we did. And the next day, my father, bless his heart, that's Southern for, getting away with anything you say. My father said, "Hey, son, I noticed you weren't at church tonight. Is everything okay?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, we were just tired and decided to have an evening to ourselves as a family. And my dad said, I'm not saying that it's wrong to ever do that. He said, but I want you to be aware that your flesh and the enemy will always be ready for with an excuse to keep you away. He said, and you need to choose what's more important in your life, and you will set that tone in your home. And you know what? That kind of stung, because it was just one time. But I'm so grateful that my dad did that, because that gave me a fire to say, what's most important to me? And you know what? There's so many times that Wednesday evening rolls around and I come home and I'm still tired. I'm still helping ladies trying to figure out their problems at work with some machines. And it's time now to get home, to get my little people dressed and ready to go to church. And thankfully they're old enough now they can help. But you just kind of, I just want to go home. Can you identify? I just want to stay home. Can you identify with me? Yeah. But you get up and you go. And nothing amazing happens. But when you come home, you have more energy than when you went. Do you know what I'm talking about? What happened? What was it?
You were rejuvenated.
You're rejuvenated. But how did that happen?
Denied self.
Okay, you denied self, and I think there's some
Spiritual discipline is practiced.
spiritual distance. What?
You're with others.
You're with others. God designed us to be interrelational people. And if COVID taught me one thing, it's taught me about how much I need my brotherhood. I need to be with them. And so while I love this, we have a live stream at our church too. But my fellow minister and I, we came to the decision that if this ever starts to become a crutch for us to stay home, we cut the cord right there. What are some of the other benefits of a live stream? There's one more that I think is really important to us to consider.
Larger audience.
Okay. In what way?
The visual. The visual.
Plus the audio.
Okay. How many of you have businesses or you interact with the public significantly every day? Can I see your hands? How many of them know where to find your church messages? I would encourage you to share that, whether it be audio or whether it be a recording. We have a large Russian Orthodox contingent up in our neck of the woods, and I've had numerous discussions with different of the ladies as I'm working on their sewing machines. And you know what? They're struggling. They're struggling with knowing how, because their children are by and large abandoning their faith and they're going out into the world. And they're struggling with it because their husbands, they drink vodka, they have you see their liquor cabinets, it would make a bar proud, of what they have going on in there. The women are all modestly dressed, the men get to dress kind of however they want. And it's creating this struggle. And these ladies are asking these questions, so what do you believe about this? You know, what's a safe dating practice for your young people? And there was one lady, she was really asking questions about what it means to be saved. And I was trying to share, I said, you know, you'd be welcome to come to church. And she said, I can't. If I miss church here and I go to another church somewhere else and they find out that's why I missed, I'm likely to be kicked out. And I said, would you be able to listen to a message on YouTube? She says, if I'm careful. I didn't realize it was that closed of a group. And so I was able to give them our YouTube channel, and they were able to write. She sent me some dialogue back and forth, and we dialogued back and forth with it. Brothers and sisters, I have probably about 10 to 15 of my customers that listen to our YouTube on a fairly regular basis. Because when they come into the store and you minister to their hearts, you talk to them about the real things of life, all of a sudden you say, hey, I think I know of a message that might speak to you. And I send that link to them, and they call back and they said, I've never heard something like that before. We have the ability through some of these things to reach people in ways we never have. Because they'll never set a foot inside, they're too scared to maybe set that foot inside our door for the first time. But they'll listen and they'll watch. And who are you people and what are you doing? I could go on here a little more, but is the overhead projector in the church a good thing? What's that?
Amen.
Amen. That's not a very decisive answer, Brother Val. No one wants to say anything.
Can be.
Because it can be. Mm-hmm.
It's working today.
It's working today. Yep.
I think if you're making points like you are, it's good, but I don't think it's a substitute for actually reading out of the Bible.
Okay, thank you. Can this become a crutch? When I was part of the Pregnancy Resource Center in Bemidji, I would go around and do presentations at various different churches. If they have one of these up front, I saw almost nobody carrying a Bible, and there was no hymnals in the benches. There was no sheet music, with the 4-part harmony. It's all just text. And it's easy for it to become a crutch. Now, there's one thing I do like about it. I like seeing people's faces. I like making that eye contact. And that is important, because when I see you, I can connect with you, and I know you're following along with what I'm saying. I can see by your that you disagree, or you don't understand, or there's lots of facial expressions. But when we're singing together, it's awesome to be able to see the expression on people's, because you're ministering to the song leader, and he's looking, are we all together in place? And I think that can be a good thing if we're all focused in one spot. But let that be a message for us when we're singing. Are we following, looking ahead, and then looking up and sharing the joy of what's in our heart? Are we just reading the lines on the page just the same we would read them on the screen? I don't know that that's necessarily right or wrong. I'm just asking, because it's changing our church services. Would you agree? It looks a little different. And I'm not saying it's all bad, but it's different. And are we aware of the change that it's bringing to our churches? I did that one already. Okay, so I'm going to, actually, I cranked through here pretty quick. What I'd like to do is, for the next few days, does the Bible talk about technology? Will you find a cell phone anywhere in the Bible? Nowhere. Exactly, Bear. But will you find anything about the internet?
Nowhere.
No? Will you find any, but does the Bible teach about the things we do with technology?
Yes.
Absolutely. And so what I would like to do is like to look at 6 areas that technology is affecting us from a biblical perspective, and then look at some of the things that how we're doing it. We're going to look at our use of time. This is one of the things that we're going to go through the next few days. Does the Bible have anything to say about how we use our time? And is technology affecting how we use our time? Our desire for an easy life. Is it wrong to try and make life easier? Not necessarily, but it can be. We're going to look at that a little bit. Does the Bible have anything to say about our relationships with each other? Yes, very much so. We're going to look at that a little bit too, and also some of the technology, how that's affecting it. Does the Bible have anything to say about what contentment is and how we should be looking at that? Yeah. What about temptations? I think this is one thing that I think is the... My dad, one time, I told him, I was trying to give him all the reasons why I wanted to do this certain thing and why I thought it would be okay. And he said, what are the reasons for that? And I told him, and he says, what are the downsides? I said, well, there's this, and there's this, and there's this. And he likened it to the cattle yard we had recently been through, that there was a soupy manure about 6 to 8 inches deep over that entire thing. It had been raining and raining, and it was just a mess. And my dad said, if I put 4 quarters out there, would you want to go out and get them? You know, and sometimes I think that's a question I have is, you know, we walk into a lot of soupy mire for only a quarter's worth of benefit. And we subject ourselves to incredible temptations that God never intended for us to face. Is there a way that we can look at that and address that? And the last one I'd like to look at is our source. Where do we go for our source of wisdom? And I think what you said earlier, are we seeking wisdom, is so vitally important, because it's the wise and the foolish is going to be the defining line when the Lord returns about who goes to glory. Where do we go for that wisdom? And is technology affecting that? And the last thing on Friday, what I'd like to do is I'd like to look at how we can paint some lines and build some guardrails for our families to know how to address these in our lives. Because you know what? If you're hoping that I was going to draw a line that here's what's in and here's what's out, I can't do that for you. Because it is different for every single one of us. Just because I'm using this amount of technology in my store does not mean it's safe for someone else who has no need for it. And just like I can't draw a line for that this is the line that we all have to abide to, that doesn't negate the fact that we must each draw a line. That's the important part. And that's what I'd like to cover on Friday. Okay? That is what I have for you today. Lord's blessings to you, and we'll see you tomorrow.